Hello. This is a video in which I go into a little bit more detail on audience appeals and how readers, or writers rather, are using these appeals to convince their readers of what they want to get across, their overall message or their argument. Now, one of these appeals is the emotional appeal, and writers usually use this appeal when they are trying to pull at readers' heartstrings, to maybe get them scared a little bit, to take some action on a certain problem, maybe to just make them feel hope if there's a dire circumstance that's going on in the news, or that they just want to bring to readers' attention. And one way to do this is to talk about examples of consequences that might happen. So if a reader doesn't take action, there might be a certain effect that happens. If a reader doesn't do anything, then there might be another consequence that occurs. And I just want to use a series of examples to try to explain this a little bit better. So one example might be looking at the polar bears and global warming. Okay, so for instance, if the writer were to say, we need to take action to stop global warming. If we don't, the polar bear will lose his home. And in this case, readers are able to see a little bit of sympathy, or they can sympathize with an animal that really has no control over their environment. So in this case, the writer is trying to appeal emotionally and get readers to sympathize. Now, when writers are using or trying to use an emotional appeal, it really depends on their tone. So if they are trying too hard, maybe they're beefing up their language a little bit because they really want their readers to do something about the problem, sometimes that can backfire and not be as effective as they want. So here's another example. So if we don't take action to prevent global warming, polar bears, these majestic, beautiful, wonderful animals of the Arctic, will no longer have a home. Now, this is borderline, but I would say that this writer is trying a little bit too hard using those characteristics. Readers already know that a polar bear, like most animals, or I'd say all animals, do not really have much of a choice when it comes to their habitat. They want it, they need it. Do they have the option in terms of what we do as humans to try to prevent global warming? No. And readers understand that. They don't need to be pushed over the edge. Now, another related area to maybe being too sugary might be being a little bit too aggressive with tone. So if a writer is using language that might potentially insult readers, not so good either. So another example might be, I demand that we take action right now to prevent global warming. The polar bears are dying. We are the murderers. That might be going a little bit too far. Okay, so yes, writers or readers do have to see that the writer's passionate about what they're talking about, but they might have an adverse reaction to a statement like that. So it's always good to keep in mind when thinking about appeals to think about how the author is also using tone to get that message across. Now, it was probably pretty easy to hear that tone because you can listen to this video and hear me speaking and hear my inflection. But another way that you can interpret tone is through reading it. And I've included links to these examples that I just read so that you can compare them to how you heard them spoken and then when you see them written as well. So really just keep these in mind as you are thinking more about how audiences are interpreting an author's message and how well or how effective a writer is when they are trying to get their message across to readers.